Hello and welcome. This is Wizzo's Channel 1 and your host is Richard. First of all, I'd like to say hi to all my current subscribers and for you passing by watching my video today. A vast majority of you watch my content but are not subscribed, so please consider subscribing, pressing the notification button, liking the video, leaving a comment down below, and also as well share to social media. With that said, let's get on with today's video. I'm going to concentrate on my Sega Saturn collection, and I'll tell you briefly a little bit about the history of the Sega Saturn. The Sega Saturn is a 5th generation console from Sega. Its lifespan was between 1994 to 1998 and 2000 in Japan. It was first released in 1994 in Japan, 1995 in Europe and North America. It didn't sell very well in North America. It sold quite well in Europe. However, unfortunately, to Sega, they had really poor sales on the console, which is such a pity because it's actually quite a good console. They only sold 9.64 million units across the world, which then they deemed as a failure, which is such a pity. So that's a little bit of a brief history of the Sega Saturn game console. So without any further ado, I will start to show you what I have in my games collection. Just a bit of a note that the most popular titles that was on the Sega Saturn was the Virtua Fighter titles and also the Panzer Dragoon titles, which were quite big, and Nights into Dreams. And that was a really good game as well. But anyway, I don't have a lot in my collection, but anyway, this is going to be part 1, and I will now start to show you what I have in my games collection. Right, the first game I'm going to show you came bundled with my Sega Saturn, and that is the Virtua Fighter. I remember actually playing it in the arcades, and it's quite a complex way of playing the game, but after a while you get to know the moves and how to perform them. But it was different compared to, it was meant to be more realistic. That's the only thing I can say about it. But yeah, on the whole, in its genre, it's one of the great games of its genre. Right, so that's the Virtua Fighter. Next one, continuing with Virtua Fighter, and that is Virtua Fighter Remix. Very few copies of this came out. It's basically a reskin, and there's the back as well, and inside the case, and obviously some other documentation. This one has got the CG disc, CDG disc they call it, that has all the, you could play it in a machine and it will play the graphics or how they designed it and everything, and watching the characters' movements and everything. Quite interesting addition, but like I said, very few copies of that was made, so if you can get it, it's worth adding it to your collection. Right, Virtua Fighter 2. There's the back. Right, Virtua Fighter 2. Pretty good version of it. It's not exactly like, hold on, this one I can just sort of turn out a little bit. Not exactly like, almost just as good as the arcade version. They almost got it arcade perfect, with 2 additional new characters, which is Shun-Di and Leon. That does the praying mantis moves, and Shun-Di is the drunken master. So those are the 2 additional new characters that was in Virtua Fighter 2. Right, the next game I'm going to show you is Fighting Vipers. Using the same game engine as Virtua Fighter, it's more of a push button style type fighting. A bit slightly different than Virtua Fighter, but actually quite a good game. If you want to quickly get into a game, that is the game. Initially all the characters have got armour, and then obviously by using certain methods you can break their armor, and then the defenses are quite low, and then you can batter your opponent as well. It's actually a pretty good game. Get quickly into it. Not too bad. Right, next one, and you know that I had to buy it. That's the only title I've got, and actually did come out on the Sega Saturn. That's Mortal Kombat 2, and there's the back of it. I wonder if we can open this one. Yeah, we can. So, oh, no. Unfortunately, I've got to try and get some glue to stick on the back of that. But yeah, Mortal Kombat 2 did come out on the Sega Saturn, indeed. I don't believe the original Mortal Kombat came out on the Sega Saturn. I know that on the 32X they released Mortal Kombat. That's as far as I know. If anyone knows any more, then correct me if I'm wrong. Anyway, this is the last game for today. Fighters Megamix. And of course, it is Virtua Fighter meets Fighting Vipers. This case is actually quite a lot better than some of them. They should have made all these cases like that, because they're all plastic. They should have made all these cases like this. I'll show the back if I haven't. Do it again. Right, basically that's what it is. It's Virtua Fighter versus Fighting Vipers. And also as well, there are a few characters that are unlockable that come from other games, such as, I'm just trying to think one of the other games was unheard of, obviously, in Europe. Eventually got a release, so it's downloadable on PlayStation 3. There was 2 characters that was unlockable from Sonic the Fighters game, which came out in Japan, but it didn't come out over here. But like I said, when they released a lot of Sega stuff on the PlayStation 3, I downloaded a Sega bundle which had Fighting Vipers, Virtua Fighter, Sonic the Fighters and Fighters Megamix bundle, which wasn't too bad. So I was able to play them again, but at least I managed to play Sonic the Fighters. And also as well, there are a few additional characters that are in relation to other games, such as Sega Rally. You had the Hornet, which was one of the fighters. Honestly, Hornet. But yeah, so good fun to play, and it sort of like gives you the other side of the fence. Like, some people would have been better playing Virtua Fighter characters, and some probably better at playing Fighting Vipers. I've played against so many other different people, and a lot of people prefer the Virtua Fighter style. I like the Fighting Viper style, but there you go. Right, that's it for today. If you liked the video, like I said, give it a thumbs up, leave a comment down below, and if you haven't subscribed, please press the notification button and subscribe to the channel and share on social media. With that said, this is the end of part 1 of my Sega Saturn collection. Hello and welcome. This is Wizzo's Channel 1 and your host is Richard. First of all, I'd like to say hi to all my current subscribers and for you passing by watching my content. A vast majority of you watch my content but are not subscribed. Please consider subscribing to the channel, press the notification button, like the video, leave a comment down below, and also share to social media. With that said, let's get on with today's video. Right, this is part 2 of my Sega Saturn collection, and any references or a brief history of the Sega Saturn is in my previous video. Without no further ado, let's continue with the games. First game is Nights into Dreams. Yeah, and that's the back part of it. That's the inside case of it. Yeah, you're probably wondering why is it in a glass crystal case, and that is because that, and there's instruction manual, that is because I've got the limited edition Nights into Dreams promotional pack, which had the 3D circular controller to make it easier to play the game, and also as well I did have the box, but unfortunately the box got damaged, so I had to get rid of it. But I would turn around and say that if you haven't got this game, it is well worth playing it. I got addicted. I actually finished the game completely. That's one of my proudest achievements on the Sega Saturn. It's a sort of action fantasy type game, which has a little bit of a puzzle element to it as well. If you haven't played it, or if you know someone who's actually got the Sega Saturn, maybe ask them so you can have a go at the game. I know that it's been ported to other game systems. I know that I have a Sega bundle which has Nights into Dreams HD version. They've re-smoothed the characters and everything, give it a nice new polish. So I have it on my PlayStation 3 and I've played it on there. It's nice to play it again after all these years. But yeah, if you haven't got it, or if you're not able to get it on the PlayStation Network, then see if you can, and if you have got a Sega Saturn, see if you can get hold of a copy. Right, the next game is Sega Rally. That's that part of it. That's the other side of it. Yeah, inside. This is one of the boxes that actually is kept together. What can I really say about Sega Rally? It's one of the best car racing games there is on the Sega Saturn, and they use it as a big benchmark on testing it on emulation as well. For those of you who do emulation, it really does push out the processors on devices that support Sega Saturn emulation. But yeah, it's one of the most brilliant games out there in its category. Right, yeah, the grand finale of games, and that is a Panzer Dragoon Saga. That's the back part. I would open it, but I don't want the disc falling out. What can I say about Panzer Dragoon Saga? It's one of the best games that, for the Sega Saturn. I mean, there's other Panzer Dragoon games. I think Panzer Dragoon's Wii is another one that came out on there as well. I'm going to see if I try and collect some of the others. But Panzer Dragoon Saga is one of the most rarest games, and that is because the original developers who made the source code for the game, actually it got lost. So it wasn't able to be ported to other gaming systems, which is such a pity because it is a good game. So that makes it pretty rare. But I mean, some people out there is selling it for a ridiculous amount of money, which is pure greed, really, to be quite honest. Also as well, I loved the game. I got it when it first came out. I never got it second, I bought it brand new. For me, it's more sentimental more than anything. They don't make games like that again. So it's a bit of a jewel in the crown, so to speak. So if you haven't got it, and if you can try and get it cheaper than what these ridiculous prices online, see if you can hunt a copy down that's in good condition. It's well worth playing it, and it would be money well worth spent. With that said, let's get on with the next game. The Fantasy Star Collection. Yes, you probably recognise the type of version of the game. This is actually the Japanese game. This game was never released in Europe and North America. You could only get it in Japan, so this is one of the titles that you're not going to get. It started my journey on playing RPG games, but it's got the first 4 Fantasy Star games on that disc, and some additional booklet which has some art illustrations and all that. It's worth also as well collecting it, because at the end of the day it's one of the rarer compilations that were put together for the Sega Saturn in Japan. Right, the next one, let's dig it out. Dead or Alive. Yes, Dead or Alive. Yeah, it's another one that I'd actually got for the Sega Saturn, and as you can probably notice, it's also a Japanese version. As far as I know, at the time, they only released the Japanese version on the Sega Saturn. It was meant to be due for a European and North America release, but as the console sold poorly, unfortunately, those who wanted a copy of Dead or Alive had to get the Japanese version. Also as well, I have an action replay adapter which you can save game saves on it, and also as well play those type of games. Unfortunately, mine's not functioning properly, so if anybody out there knows if I can get hold of a action replay cartridge to save my game saves and to play the imports, it'd be gratefully appreciated, and probably where I can get it at a reasonable price. Yes, that's about it on those games there. Right, the next one is Christmas Nights. Yes, this is another one that's hard to get hold of, but if you collected the Sega Saturn magazine which came out, it was actually featured on the front cover. So as well that it's rare, it's a collector's item, but that's a version for Christmas. And also as well, there's other settings that you can change in it and change the scenery and all that. There's some little tiny hacks on the game as well. And also as well, you can play as Sonic. Yes, you can play Nights into Dreams with Sonic the Hedgehog. Yeah, great. But if you haven't got it, see if someone is selling it. It is hard to get hold of. And like I said, it was featured on the Sega Saturn magazine. So if you didn't collect the magazines, collected about 20 of them. There wasn't that many volumes of the magazine. I think after the popularity of the machine died, so to speak, they stopped creating the magazine. But if you can get hold of that Nights into Dreams, it'd be well worth playing it. The next one is basically demo discs. I know that Gaming Grandad Chris had shown some of his flash discs, but they actually came with the Sega Saturn magazine. I've got several of them, but I can't reach them at the moment. So this is like an example. I've got Sega Flash 4 and Sega Flash 7 in that case. Basically, they have all demos of games, and and it's quite good because it gives you an idea of what's out there and what's available, and that's a really good way of finding out if it's a game you're actually going to go out and buy. Unfortunately, there were some games I was interested in, but then by that time they were sort of hard to get hold of, and as the Sega Saturn died out, so to speak, I went to play on the PlayStation, but that's how it goes. If you haven't got a Sega Saturn, it will probably worth see if you can get hold of one. They've made some brilliant games. There's a lot of treasures out there. I've forgotten how many games in total that were made. You can refer to Wikipedia, it should be able to tell you how many titles that were made for the Sega Saturn. I wouldn't say there have been that many because the game console had a very short life. So, anyway, this is the end of my Sega Saturn games collection. I hope you enjoyed it. So, until the next one, I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye for now.